You are now listening to the Nights Around the Table podcast.
Tonight's episode of Nights Around the Table is brought to you by Jonah's Deep Sea Tours. We'll get you swallowed up in adventure. Tired of boring vacations? Hop aboard our exclusive 3-day all-inclusive submarine cruise through the belly of the deep. No windows, no Wi-Fi, just you, your regrets, and a whole lot of seaweed. Now featuring our new GPS, get this, GPS, God's positioning system. Because when you run from your calling, we will find you. Use promo code BIGFISH10 for a free poncho and a complimentary repentant scroll.
Nice.
That is tonight, not a sponsor.
I like it.
Very good.
Well, we're glad to be back. Glad to have y'all joining us again. Man, honestly, I'm excited about this one. I always get excited about the testimony ones, man. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what it's all about, getting to see what the Lord does in people's lives. And
And that is our producer, Keeler,
yeah.
off camera.
But, man, yeah, so today, a couple weeks ago, we got to talk about John's story, which was really awesome and really, really cool to see how the Lord worked in his life. And as we make our way around the host, we have Zack up next. So, you know, I've probably heard at least a little bit, being in the family and everything. And I'm sure maybe Jonathan knows a little bit about your growing up. But I guess to start off with, man, like, what was family life like growing up? Like, you know, early Zack childhood,
Yeah.
and getting into church and.
Well, church is something that we've always had sort of central to our life. Kind of like Jonathan's story started out with. It's a great childhood. We wouldn't trade it for the world. I would now, what people look at our family now and know it as my dad, Pastor Gene Henderson here at Ebenezer. He wasn't always Pastor Gene. You know, he was Dad, the construction worker for a little while. And, but we were, regardless, still always at church. Great family. Family, that word family was very important to us, and probably as it is to both of you guys. We had, our grandparents, very blessed to know both of our grandparents on both sides, of course. Even our great-grandparents grew up with them. I have a picture. This is not me as a child, but I have a picture. Whenever my son Mason was born, we had 5 generations sitting on the same couch. That's crazy. Like, family, heritage, legacy was a very big deal and still is. And a lot of that revolved around church. Mm-hmm. And my dad growing up, like I say, I think they instilled in us the things that I want to, I guess, instill in my children to value the Lord, even though the church was important, but it wasn't the centerpiece of our family like it is today in some ways. But yeah, man, we grew up, had a lot of fun. I don't think we had probably all the money in the world, but my dad, if he couldn't buy it, he could build it. And we'd be out there. He'd build us tree houses. You know, he'd build us all the things. Buy hand-me-down go-karts, hand-me-down dirt bikes. You know, the stuff that we'd ride for 15 minutes, he'd work on for an hour. And man, it was just a beautiful childhood. I grew up on a hay farm, and about 6 acres, 12 acres there, and it was just phenomenal. We had a lot of room to run, play, grow up. And it was just it was a really amazing childhood that there's really no regrets with my childhood. You know, it was such an innocent, pure, adventuresome childhood. And then, of course, about 1999, my dad, he led the Royal Ranger program here. A couple episodes ago, we talked a lot about that.
Yep.
And then around 1999, 2000, he was approached about being youth pastor. And I think his version, he said, I will never be a pastor. You know, pastor is never on the radar. He went to Emmanuel College for a little while. That's a Christian university, but I think he dropped out or quit or something. He was in the military as a medic, but he was a hard worker, but pastoring, he would help, he would lead, he would do whatever. That wasn't in the bag of, tools, so to speak. And sure enough, though, don't tell God that you won't do it, because
dangerous.
he did. And, kind of the rest kind of goes from there.
Nice. So you talked about basically family and heritage and, church being instilled very early. I guess, what is your earliest memory of, your parents instilling in you that the value of Christ in your life?
Yeah, one of the earliest things I can think of, every night we would get down in front of our couch in our living room, and we would say a little prayer, and we'd start at my dad, and he'd go down, my mom would pray after him, I would pray, my sister, my brother, all of us do a prayer. What ended up getting is kind of, we're running into this with my kids too. We pray, we cover a lot of ground in our prayers. So it turns into, instead of, and I tell my kids, don't pray, just pray from your heart, whatever's on your heart. Well, I mean, we cover a lot. And so it does become a stall tactic in a way.
Yeah.
And so
very true.
So I think we disband the prayer on the couch, and everybody was to go and pray in your room. And so we did that, but the prayer on the couch, I don't think prayer in my life, I think I regressed in the importance of prayer after that, because that couch, that was where we read our Bible. That was kind of what kept the glue on, for us. And it took church back home. That was kind of that discipleship back home before my dad was in ministry. My mom was a teacher, before we kind of got more involved in church as a family. The couch was a big part of our growing up. And I'm very thankful for that. And that's a tradition that we still kind of carry on. We might not read our Bible. I think we go in my daughter's room and read the Bible, and we all take turns and we pray after our Bible. But that was very important to me, and that kept me grounded for a long time. And whenever that stopped, and it was kind of, the ball was given to us, like do self-discipleship or whatever, I kind of waned from that. And that, I think, was the beginning of some things that I walked through.
I was just about to ask. So I think there's a certain point growing up where, at least for my memories, that your faith kind of goes from childlike faith, where Jesus talks about where have faith like a child. It's pretty much your parents tell you about the Lord, and you believe them just because they told you, and you walk in faith by that, not knowing as a kid, because you just hear it from your parents. So at what point do you go from childlike faith to you're like suddenly starting to realize, okay, I got to take this faith thing on my own path? And
so some of that happened after my dad became youth pastor. He became youth pastor, I guess, officially when I was about 10, going on 11. About year 2000 was his first year, 1999, 2000, somewhere in there. And so up until that point, I would say I had childlike behavior, in a sense, childlike faith. Church was important, but I didn't have that personal connection to faith. And whenever we, as a family, started going to youth services, started doing all these trips, naturally you're just around ministry a lot. You're hearing a lot of sermons, you're hearing a lot of things, you're seeing a lot of things, experiencing a lot of things, and it became a little more real over time. And I would say probably it took me a little while. It definitely, so I remember I was in the 5th grade one time. I remember there was a pivotal moment in my life that I remember, like, there's moments that you can relive in your mind. Like, you can go back to them. Don't matter how long ago they were. It's like you remember what you were doing, where you were. There was a moment in 5th grade. I was at Congaree Elementary School. And I had been so sheltered my whole life. I went to friends' houses, but it was friends from the church. Mm-hmm. It was even their values and stuff were the same as like my parents. So I lived, and it was a good thing. Believe me, I'm thankful for that sheltering, because there's a lot of things out there that I didn't know. And I got in the 5th grade, and this little fella, he was sitting next to me. We had 4 desks, and they were kind of pushed into like a square. So we had 2 kids facing us. Me and this other kid was sitting. Another guy was sitting next to me. Ironically enough, this same fella, he's a great guy now. We have kids at the same school. We see each other all the time. Great fella. But as kids do, we were being mischievous, I'm sure. He slipped a piece of paper out his book bag, and he's like, "Hey man, look at this." And he held this picture up, and it was something I never seen before. And it was crazy. And it was animated. It's like a cartoon, but it was just crazy. And it was like, I can still, and this sounds terrible, I can still see that picture. I don't know if that even makes sense. And I only looked at it for like 3 seconds.
Yeah. And
it did something in my head where it made a moment in my mind where it was like the first time that I had ever not been I saw the world for what it really was, the ugly. And it
and the crazy part about that is it's not even like you were out looking for it. It came to you.
And man, and this is sort of going off of that a little bit. That's sort of what is terrifying as a father, knowing that your kids are going into places you're not going to be holding their hand their whole life.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's a good thing that you not always a good thing that you run into things, but it's a good thing to experience the world and to know and to like see the staunch the difference between like good and evil, and to recognize that. And I knew right away. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know back in that moment, but it created like a curiosity inside of me. And so this whole life of having this innocence and this purity like a child was like shattered, not by my own doing, but it was like a hard knife come flying in and just pierced it in that moment. And that sent really me down an internal battle that nobody really knew about. It just kind of probably not unlike any other boy. But I was raised in a generation where I saw the birth of the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like I saw the internet come about. So it really wasn't something that is like now. Like right now we have data stuff everywhere. Well, then it was like a whole new world. I mean, it was like as things were progressing in technology, so was the experiences and the curiosities and the things that you could, go and see and do, and some good, some bad. And and that was kind of that moment that really sort of.
Well, it sounds like
changed.
Your parent. I mean, you can't. You got to look at their evidence. They're batting 3 for 3. So whatever they've done, mistakes or successes, they've achieved what needed to be achieved. So you got to give them a lot of props for that. And then 2, you say sheltered, and I can relate because I lived that same style of life with my parents as well. You didn't experience any of that stuff, but sheltered, I wouldn't say that because they didn't stop you from seeing the world, but how they lived the world and the people that they associated with, and you were surrounded with. Yeah. You had to go so far out of your way, like you had to make it a point. I'm going to look for evil or sin or whatever because it was not
readily
easy
available,
to get
right.
to.
Yeah.
And I mean, because that's how our whole village was. The same way. So it wasn't so much that you were sheltered. It's that they didn't say, I'm going to teach you how to cope with the world. They show you, I'm going to teach you how to live. Yeah. And, when the world comes to you, this is how you do it. You don't go and mingle with the world in that.
Yeah. And the thing is whenever you're young like that, and as a kid, you do see it as being sheltered to a degree, but then you grow up, right? Then you mature, then you have kids of your own, and you realize like, man, this isn't sheltering at all. It's
love. And I've heard that same argument too about different forms of parents. And they're like, you don't want to shelter your kid because when they see something, they'll just have complete meltdowns and give in or whatever, want to experience it because they don't even know about it.
Right.
But all the evidence I've seen from my life, my family's life, you and everybody I've seen, it's not that you see it have total meltdowns and then just give into it.
Yeah.
It's that you know how to put your shields up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
still live your morals,
Exactly.
live the Bible, but and also at the same time, you don't shun the people who are doing it or whatever in a way that makes them think that you get that stereotypical, they're
Yeah.
conceited, Christians better than you, not gonna, or weak. You let them
Right.
see that, you have morals, you have discipline,
Yeah.
you're okay to be friends or whatever, but that particular whatever's going on, you're not
Yeah.
gonna have anything to do with it. And so that's what I get out of it when I hear you say that stuff. Because again, in my experience, and we have very parallel roads here. Your dad's in ministry when he got to, you said what, 10, 11?
Yeah, I was about 10 or 11.
You can't be in ministry in what he's doing and be sheltered. Because
Right.
the stuff you see,
Right.
that people come for you to help, and the problems you get confronted with,
Oh, yeah.
you're not being sheltered if you're
sure.
getting seen that. So
For sure. And sheltered, not in the sense, exactly. And thank you for pointing
Yeah.
that out, because for our listeners, especially, it was a life. They lived out the Bible and showed us that we didn't have to live this way to have fun. We didn't have to live according to the world's definition of fun. We didn't have to do things. There was a better way. They lived it every day. They were examples for us. And I mean, we had the most fun growing up. And I think, John, we've said throughout this podcast season, this first season, random story. We could do seasons on seasons of stories of our childhood. It was not a boring childhood. It was not boring to be a Christian. It was not boring to be in church. It was actually very opposite. It was a wonderful childhood, wonderful experience. But because they were parents that loved us and loved Jesus, they did what any good parent should do, is did their very best to protect us from that we would experience stuff.
Ungodly experience.
Yeah. They did. I mean, my child running around with a fork, when to go put it, if he goes to put it in a socket somewhere, I'm because I love him, say no.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would let us learn the hard way, but
I would say the majority of the time on things.
They love, especially my mom, man. She was, some of my friends would be like, "You can't go with us somewhere." I'm like, "No, Mom won't let me." And I look back and I'm like, you know what? I can see now why Mom wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
So it was a great childhood. They did their very best. And so and I think, like Jonathan said, I think they did really, really well seeing the fruits of my brother and my sister. But I'll never forget, man, just that one moment.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so kind of piggybacking off of that. So how does that, I guess, exposure affect you moving forward? I guess because you said around middle school, right?
Yeah, it'd been about fifth grade.
Fifth grade, yeah.
This is when that happened.
So how does that affect you moving forward in your walk with the Lord and
yeah. Well,
maybe your whole life, I guess, to this point?
Well, I was a church kid. I played on the praise team at a young age. I ended up leading the praise team into my teenage years. And so I was heavily involved in leadership in the youth group, but also leadership like in our Royal Rangers. So I always had this ministry role. So, of some kind. And, it was, I don't know, when you're there, I think we can get very good at, church, if that makes sense. I think we can get very good at putting on a happy face and a spiritual face and walking in and acting like everything's fine. We're blessed and highly favored, and we are in a lot of ways, but then sometimes internally, I found myself, and this is not to disparage, those that put me in leadership positions, but I found that moving from that moment, me in leadership positions was also the crutch I used to why I couldn't go deal with my issues, if that makes sense. I was playing the guitar. I was the lead guitar on the praise team, sitting there playing guitar. They'd have an altar call. Well, I can't just put down guitar. This is what I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
I can't just put down the guitar and go down to the altar, because who's going to play the guitar? Who's going to keep this not from getting awkward? Somebody's got to play music. So I'd stay up there. So what I would do is like mask a lot of my things with church and like with responsibilities. I got to the place where I was praise team leader, this is moving on up through my teenage year. I was 17 years old, probably. Praise team leader, 18 years old, something like that. And I would a lot of times skip Sunday school to, which we have Sunday school at that time before our Sunday morning worship service. I would skip Sunday school to go pull music. I would use my responsibility, like I got things I got to go do. And I would find myself more and more and more putting responsibility over making sure that I stayed grounded. And not that I was necessarily, maybe in one hand, I was running from some conviction or something, but in another way, I was trying to just make myself feel like I'm good. You know, this is all good. And I dealt with, and I'm laughing because there's stories out of it. I dealt with, I would lie, dude. I would lie when I was a kid. My dad, so I would find myself lying so much, like over nothing that had any consequence. It just was like, it had become a default. Like if you walked in the room and be like, hey, did you open that jar? I'd be like, oh, not me. And it's like, I'm not going to get in trouble if it's the jar open. You know what I mean? It was stuff like that, just silly stuff. And I had developed all these patterns that nobody, maybe in some cases, my parents didn't even realize I was developing these things that were becoming like little mountains in my life that would be crucial for me to address. But there was this one time I was in high school and I procrastinated, which I don't do that really anymore. I've learned my lesson. I'm very on top of my stuff and I try to be as best I can. This one day I procrastinated on a project. My parents were going out of town. My grandparents were coming in and they were going to keep us. I hadn't even started the thing yet. And I think they were leaving like on a Thursday. And my project was supposed to be turned in like on a Friday. So I knew that it would be okay because my parents were leaving. I would take my mom's laptop. I would work on it. I'd finish it. all Thursday. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. I'd present it on Friday. I did not realize my mom took the laptop with her when they left. She never takes her computer. So then now I got a problem. The only computer in our house that I got to do my project is gone with my parents. So if I go to school on Friday.
So you went to the library is what I'm
No, I probably should have. But this was like, when I was like 14 or 15. I just started driving. If I go to school on Friday.
You can't drive at 14.
Okay, 15, whatever it is.
I think it's 16.
It might have been 16. I was in high school. I was at Airport High School at this time. So
anyway, that doesn't really matter.
I just got my.
I wonder if we were still lying.
No, I don't know what age can you not drive at night? You can do everything, but not
15.
drive.
You can't drive at night.
Okay, I was 15.
I don't know. It's been a long time.
I was 15 years old.
I think it's 15 and a half. You can get your permit, then you can get.
Restricted is what it's called. Okay, so anyway. I was 15 years old, and so I figured out if I went to school on Friday with no report, no project, I would get a 0. But if I skipped school, all right, yes. And I'm absent.
Hey, problem solved.
If I'm absent. Now, if I show up on Monday, because I'm not there on Friday, if I show up on Monday and turn it in, I get credited for it.
That's correct.
So 15 years old, I have to figure out how to skip school all day. So I leave the same time I always do in the morning. I go to the mall. That's my first stop. All right. The mall does not open.
He has never done this before.
I have never done this before.
What, 10 maybe?
Yeah, 10.
Okay.
So I pull up in my little truck and I'm sitting out there in the parking lot and I'm the only car in the parking lot. Do I go anywhere else? No, I have nowhere else to go. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to sit here then until the mall opens. So I was sitting out there and it's like an hour and a half goes by and I'm sitting in my truck and I'm staring. I pulled kind of up to the door. Well, then all these workers and stuff start getting there like at 9:30 or whatever. And they're all walking in the doors and stuff. Everybody's kind of looking at me because I'm just sitting in my truck. And in a minute, the security guard pulls in behind my truck and he gets out and he walks up there to the back of my truck and he's looking. He's got this little notepad. He's writing down my license tag number. And I was like, I can't get caught. I can't get busted right out the gate. So I'm kind of laying there like I'm asleep, and I turned my truck on and I dropped that thing in gear and take off to the back side of the mall. And I like run from him. I'm like, I'm get out of here. So I like take off around the mall. Well, in just a little bit, I see him like pulling around. So I'm like, I can get out of here. So I end up going to, I think like, I don't know, some other store and like walking around like a grocery store or something, like walking around like I'm looking for stuff. I go back to the mall. I end up doing all this stuff, running. And I end up at Bray Park, which is Midland's football field.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm out of places to go.
What time is this? Like 11:30?
Dude,
like
this is probably like 1 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. So it's been a struggle. I feel like I've been running from the law. I've been doing everything. And I'm just sitting up in the bleachers at this football field. And because I'm like, I have nowhere else to go. I don't know what to do right now. And so I'm just sitting there. Well, then about 8 lowrider trucks pull up with loud music. And it's these dudes that look crazy are getting out, I guess, to practice soccer or whatever. But they pull up at this football field and they're like playing all this loud music and stuff. And I'm like, now I'm self-conscious. Now I'm like, oh, dude, they're gonna come like rob me and stuff. And like, I don't like this. So like, I kind of go and meander my way back down. Anyway, I felt like I was fighting to survive that whole day. And come to find out, and I did. I finished my project over the weekend, turned it in, got a A. It's perfect. Well, nobody knew that I had skipped school until my family at that time. They send letters home with like, your son didn't make it to school. And my mom did the math and was like, you didn't go to school on the day? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So you didn't go to school. And
she started figuring it out.
She started figuring it out, and I ended up confessing to it. And she marched me up there in school. I think I was like a sophomore. She took me to school and was like, what is the consequence for skipping school? They're like, Saturday school detention. So she's like, he gets Saturday school detention, the next one. And but I found myself like doing, just
did you ask him if
stupid
you could
stuff.
still keep your A?
I did keep my A. It got me
Mission accomplished.
yeah. And I would find myself doing some, silly stuff like that. Like, and I would say I'm doing it for a good reason. Like it's a good reason. It's a good cause. And I would justify it, but I would create these patterns of behavior that were not healthy. And it just kept building this mountain that, like I say, one day I was going to have to address.
Yeah. So that's early high school, right? So I guess going from that point, how does, I guess, those choices or those mountains you're talking about, how do you address them moving forward? How do you figure out where you're going in life, like what you're going to do, and I guess who you are now?
Well, I think I was about 18 years old, and it's funny, you say, how do I deal with them? I was struggling with the truth and many different varying things for no particular reason. I was struggling with, as any child, any boy does, especially today, pornography. I was all these, just stuff that's kind of just juvenile. That's like, that's just what you're going to go through as kids. But it was stuff I didn't deal with and nobody knew what I was going through. And there was one service, and I think you guys have maybe heard this before. I've shared it in a couple of different messages I preached, but there was one service that we were at. We were doing a revival service. I was on the praise team. There I was on the stage again. And the altar call was given, and I knew that was the day. It was like the Holy Spirit was like I was burning on the inside. I was just like, I'm supposed to be right there. This message was for me, and I didn't go. I was on the praise team. And so I'm playing my little guitar, and I was going to do what I always did. I was going to put on a strong face and, walk out the door like I always do after service, put my guitar down, and I went to the restroom. And our church has like these little wing walls, and it kind of leads back to the education building. I was coming out of the bathroom. I was coming up the threshold of the education building, going into the sanctuary. And there was a prayer warrior in our church, happened to be my great aunt, Aunt Beulah.
Mm-hmm.
R.I.P.
Yep. She passed away. Incredible woman.
Legend.
But, yes. She passed me in the stairway going down. and was like, "Hey, Zach, how's it going?" And then was like, she stopped. And I've never seen this before up until this point, but it was like her whole expression changed. She's like, "Oh, I have a word for you." She's like, "I have to tell you something." And she's like, "You've been holding on to stuff that you haven't let go of, and you're supposed to let go of this thing." And I want to say that she called out like pornography specifically, or some other stuff. She's like, "You've been holding on to stuff. Nobody knows you're doing it. And you're supposed to drop it today." And she said, "Until you put it down, you will never move forward and see what God can do in your life."
Wow.
And she's like, "You can run from him if you want to, but today you are to put it down." And then she's like, "See you later." And it was like for like a moment, she almost had an out of body experience. It was the craziest thing.
Dude, you say that. I've had that happen. Or at least somebody crossed over me before, and it felt the exact same way. Like it's almost like they had a reboot for a second.
It really is.
And they tell you the thing, and it's like on point.
Man.
And they get back to their normal self.
Dude,
But
I have never had that. So it was clearly God speaking through my Aunt Beulah to me in that moment. And I mean, it was like everything. She could have read me like a book. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And that was like, man, I fell out crying and bawling, and like nobody, it was after service, like everybody's leaving. Nobody knew what I was going through. And everybody's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, I'm good, you know? And I went home and I like just started just praying and crying. I was like, "God, you know, what am I doing? I'm just making a joke of this thing. Like I'm going to church. I'm all these things. Everybody looks at us and says, you know, oh man, y'all got it going on. Look at these perfect kids. Look at all this stuff." And I'm just like garbage inside. Like I'm just a horrible person. And that's the way I feel. And I'm like, "God, you know, I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to feel this way anymore." And I felt, it sounds kind of morbid. I felt naked. You know, I felt like for the first time somebody just saw me. Right. And I'm like, man, like I don't want to, this is ugly and I've got to fix this. So at that moment I made a decision. I was like, "Lord, I'm recommitting my life to you." I had been saved. I can't tell you how many times I had raised my hand as a child and being like, "I believe in Jesus. I want to believe in Jesus. Lord, save me." Did that at kids camp, did that at every altar call. Shoot, man. Somebody said, "Repeat after me to sinner's prayer." I would repeat it just in case I made a mistake. I was saved. I don't know, man. However many times I come to church, that's how many times I was saved when I was a kid. You know, but that moment on the floor, I believe that was a turning point. That was different. And I recommitted my life, and I really began to press in and take seriously what I was doing, and found some discipleship stuff, got connected with some different, I had to move some friend groups around a little bit, do some things different in my life, but that was a setup.
I want to go back before you go any further. You brought up a point that I think is interesting that I guess maybe Jonathan and I don't have a direct perspective about. So you talked about being a pastor's kid. So you said you felt that was for the first time you felt exposed or naked. So I imagine that as a pastor's kid, you either have one or two avenues that you could be categorized as. You can be categorized as the goody or the rebellious kid. So I mean, is that the fear? If once something like that maybe tries to comes out and you feel exposed like that.
Yeah, you definitely. So I learned how, because we were in a glass house, so to speak. I mean, everybody was watching us. I started dating Kristen, my wife. It's the only relationship I've ever had in my life. Like I didn't date anybody else. So I started dating really young, as a teenager. And if we were holding hands, mom and dad would get a report. They're on the bus holding hands. And so everybody was watching. I mean, for good reasons and for bad reasons. And so what I would do is get very good at masking and not showing certain parts of me where I didn't want anybody to see. I could do that very, very, very well. And in that, so I mean, people were watching, and we.
So you kind of like learn to give the people what they want.
Yeah.
So you know what they're looking for.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you get them to see that. Okay. Well, I mean, to some extent, that's not necessarily different than anybody else. It's just your whole focus is, church.
Right.
So it's just, that's what they're looking for. Whereas like Evan, you might be an engineer. You don't want to be, I don't know what they'd be. It wouldn't be church, so to speak, but obviously whatever group of friends or people you're around, you let them see that. Not you in particular, but just anybody.
Yeah.
And you give them that information they want, so they basically don't look any deeper and think that's who you are or whatever, so you can hide it. So, that's not necessarily
Right.
a unique thing that was just, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well,
So your human nature.
I think your true friends really know who you are. They know.
Well, they do.
Like,
That's why I say you had to move friends.
Yeah.
And it's a like you said, a human thing. It's not something that you were going through exclusively. Everybody's doing it,
That's right.
and you're everybody. So
Right.
you don't get a pass on all these trials and
Right.
stuff. That
but the
everybody else
real
goes through.
friends, they can read through it though.
They do.
can, yeah.
But that's something that they look through at. I guess it's a misconception, maybe a stereotype that preachers' kids, pastors' sons, daughters, they don't go through the same temptations and the same
Right.
stuff that everybody else does. They think it's just like not a utopia, but it's just 100% spiritual,
Right.
no faults whatsoever. Almost like a Moses. Like he wasn't tempted. He had everything was right. He did step, in line 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And it's not like that. You still face the same
Man.
things, and it's just as difficult to overcome and everything. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so you can relate to everybody's issues the same as
Yeah.
they can relate to yours.
Exactly. And it's sort of a shameful part of the testimony, which I'm not ashamed to say it now, but yeah, you do get professional at like just covering it all up. And that's what I did. And so in that moment, in that little stairwell, passing my Aunt Beulah, when she said that was, I felt like this whole time that I was hearing these stories about God and God's word, but that was the first time that it was like God stopped everything, was like, I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
And it got me off the stage. He got me away from everybody. It was just me and her. The room, the lights it's after service. The lights had already been cut off. It was so intentional that God stopped that moment. And I believe that because of that, it sort of brought me to a crossroad that
It was
Well, it's almost like a
Adam and Eve moment.
yeah,
Whenever he confronted about eating the apple, did you eat the apple?
man.
And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
there's nowhere to hide. It's
That is a good comparison because they realized they were naked. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I was about to say you had gotten so good, at masking, I guess.
Yeah.
But God says, "I can see through your mask." Like,
Well,
I
it
Yeah.
does say your
Yeah.
sins will find you out.
Yeah.
And so no matter what, at some point, you're going to have to answer for them or
Yeah.
either address them. So it's consistent. The Bible's consistent.
yeah.
It is. Yep.
That's pretty powerful.
Yep.
Well, I think right now Keeler's wanting us to move to a silly story segment, so we're gonna.
Yeah. So I have one. I don't know. I didn't know really where this would fit. I have a lot of them, but talking about me as a child.
Yeah.
One of the things that Dad instilled in us was hard work, and I would cut grass for people even before I could drive. We would load the lawnmower up on the back of a little trailer and hook it up to the truck, and Dad would take me to a yard. He would drop the trailer off, and he would leave, and I'd be out there cutting the grass, and I'd call him whenever I'm done, and I developed a nice little group of clients, and I was one day. It was a Saturday morning. I loaded up my lawnmower. I was headed down the road, and I got at the town hall, and there's a railroad track right at the town hall. And I went over the little bump, the railroad track, and I see something in my mirror. I'm like, what is that? And I look, and my lawnmower trailer passed me in the median. Sparks flying, and it's in the median passing me. And we're running about 40 miles an hour. And I'm like, oh, no, I didn't hook my trailer up. I just set it on the ball. And it goes kind of pulling off the road a little bit and hits the little curb or whatever. And it was raining outside. It just started raining while I'm hooking this thing up. I'm like, this is horrible. But it didn't hit nobody. And I'm like, I get over to the yard and I start cutting the grass. And I'm like, this day could have really been bad. and my front tire on my lawnmower falls off while I'm cutting grass.
Oh.
It falls off my lawnmower. And so I'm having to piece this thing together. I'm halfway done with the yard. And so anyway, zip tie, duct tape, everything I can. And I got it finished. But I don't know if I'll ever forget the moment where I see my trailer passing me in the median. And then to think this day could not get like that almost was really bad. And then my tire literally falling off, while I'm cutting grass. That was a bad day in the landscaping business, but we survived. We got through it. No injuries. We did what we had to do and picked up and kept going.
Nice. You got anything?
Go ahead.
Okay. I don't have a silly story, but if I want to move on, like, is it okay if I?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, hold on. I got a good
there we go.
silly story. This is it. I think this is. Did you go on the first canoe trip we went with? We went down the Edisto. I don't know. If
I don't think I was on that one. I think I was just 1 year young.
1 year young. But you remember when we went on?
Oh
that?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we had a huge group of boys. This was with the Rangers again, and I want to say we probably had 20 or 30 boys. It was crazy.
It's like the older class or the older 2 class or something like that, right? Or was it everybody?
I think the Pioneers were there. So the top 3.
Okay, yeah.
The Pioneers always went there.
That's right.
So anyway, I forget what age I was on, how old I was exactly, but we were doing a canoe trip down the Edisto, North Edisto, I believe. So it's a Blackwater River. And it was going to be overnight. So you canoe down, camp, wake up the next morning, canoe a little bit further, then you get out and go home. And we had a guide, and he was not, familiar with the 44 Magnum.
the way.
Because I remember that, ever seen those trailers with the canoes like stacked up? So he pulls up with that thing, and he had it was him and his son, who was probably, I don't know, he probably 7, 8, and he was going to ride with him, but they had a kayak. So he was trying to comfort everybody. Now, nobody worry. I've been doing this for 20-something years. I've never had anybody flip. We didn't get the boat.
Challenge.
All the boats weren't in the water yet before they were jumping from one to the other to flip them and knock them over. And all our food was in them. Like I think we had 2 or 3 canoes that were dedicated food transporters. And we sunk canoes and flipped them. And he was talking about there's alligators, and then the willows that would hang over the banks of the river. He said, do not go underneath those because they're filled with wasp nests. He said, so you're subject to get stung. So when you're going down there, you try to angle this guy and hit him and bump him that way.
Oh, man, that's so wrong.
So, there was nonstop like that. And then, again, the whole drowning thing. You try to drown whoever you could get a hold of. So I just remember that guy about halfway down seeing he had his hands on his head when I think Alan Cockrell jumped from his boat over to Justin Bricky, little Justin's, to flip his, because they flipped him when we first started. So I remember when he was doing that in midair, I looked over at the guy, because I'm thinking, this guy's our God. He has the authority. You have to listen to him. His canoes, he's responsible for everything. You kind of got to give him his respect.
Yeah.
Zero, none whatsoever. And I just remember him like hands on his head when he was jumping from one canoe to the other. Oh. And I remember your dad over there doing a belly laugh.
This is before the day of waivers. Maybe
there may have been a waiver signed, but it was as good as toilet paper.
Right?
there was no. But it's great times like that. But I just remember that was another. Episode of the 44 Magnum.
Man, there's lots of those stories.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Good times.
Good times for sure.
But anyway, go ahead, Evan.
So I'm fascinated. So after she comes to you and you feel like the Lord speaks to you through her in that moment, how does that change you moving forward? Like that's got to be big for your overall walk, I assume. Man,
it's huge. That was the moment that changed my perspective. Like I say, I saw myself in the mirror for the first time, and it changed everything. It changed the way I did ministry, and as a student leader, I didn't put my responsibility above the Lord, I guess, as I have, and use that as a crutch. It changed my habits, the things that I would practice and do or not do. And I just started I saw somewhere that it said, if you do something for 20 times, if you do something 20 times,
It becomes a habit.
Yeah, I've heard 14. Yeah, I don't know what that
there's a lot of
number
numbers.
is.
Yeah. But if you do something if you do something like over and over and over again, whether it's something as trivial as trying to remember somebody's name, if you say their name like 20 times, they say you won't forget it, or do something 20 times, it becomes more ingrained, like an ingrained behavior. When I was growing up on the farm, the hayfield, we would have dogs and they would walk the same path every single day up the field. And through this hayfield, walking the same path, naturally they would cut in this little trail. And it didn't matter how tall the grass was. It didn't matter what happened. You could see that little trail because every day they took that same little path from my grandparents' house to our house through the field. And goats do that. You know, a lot of different animals do that kind of thing. And that is kind of how I had in my mind. I had taken a same path of behavior or thought pattern where it was like, just like the lion situation, it was becoming my default. It was just something I just went to because it was there. And so I had to be intentional about not walking that same path. Like I said, finding new friends, doing different things, finding a routine or a schedule, prioritizing time in the Word. Anyway, you do that long enough, that then becomes the default.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what slowly started shifting. And of course, at the age of 21, let me back up. I was like my dad. I was going to school. I went to started out USC Aiken pursuing engineering, civil engineering. Love design, love that kind of aspect of it. Went through all the way through their 3-year program or 2-year program there. Went to USC Columbia, Carolina Gamecocks. Went to school, got in my 3rd year, and was like, "This isn't for me." And I love the design. I love the drawing. I loved all that. I did not like the math. I did good in all the classes, but I felt like I was coming to a place, another crossroads. Was like, I got to make a decision. And anyway, long story short, I didn't know really what I was going to do. Got into the graphics side of things. Got an internship with a sign company. Became lead graphic designer really quick because I was really good at it. So I took off in that. So ministry, well, I was always going to be involved in some capacity, but ministry was not on my radar. I didn't go to Bible school. I didn't do none of that. And at 21 years old, I was asked if I would consider becoming youth pastor or being youth pastor under my dad, who's senior pastor at that time. My dad, whenever I was a child, was youth pastor. And then there was kind of this place after he left youth pastor position, he moved into the senior pastor role. There was another youth pastor that came in for 2 years. So I had like a 2-year window with somebody who was not my dad. But at that time, I was like 19, 20 years old. So like I was already kind of out of youth anyway.
Yeah,
and
I was
then
gonna
21 came.
I was going to ask you what the call, I guess, felt like. Because I guess, if you're a Christian, you're supposed to be involved in some type of ministry to some degree. But, then you have the above and beyond where you're like, or at least, that's what everybody thinks. You go above and beyond to the pastoral position. So I guess, is that what you felt like your calling was at that time?
So the call is an important word because I always felt like I had a call in my life of some capacity in ministry. I was always involved in ministry. Never really felt called to be a pastor. I was happy to oblige. I was happy to help. I would dare say, and I prayed about it, but I just kind of felt like it was another ministry role that I'd always served in. It was like, would you think about doing this? Like, yeah, I'll do it. Nobody else will do it. I'm happy to do it. And I really didn't understand the gravity of it. I had been doing ministry so long. I was just like, all right. And I just stepped into the role. But I always had this calling, I felt like, but I didn't. I was probably in there almost a year before I was like, I felt like God was like, this is what I have been preparing you for. Up until that point, I had been pursuing different things, my gifts and abilities, but it was like God used everything that I had pursued and had instilled in me to be able to do this position, this job, not as a job, but as like you said, a calling. It was a position that I use my graphic design skills today more than I would in a commercial, role. Everything that has been from everything that God has built up in me has not been for nothing. He has been preparing me and shaping me and getting me established to where I can minister in a role that perhaps is very unique. So the calling, and I realized quickly the gravity of what I was doing. Like, I'm not just up there doing something interesting and fun at church. Like, I am dealing with eternal consequences right here. Like, what I mean is, my students are not guaranteed to walk back in the doors the next week. As a teenager, you feel like you're going to live forever. I attended throughout my youth pastor tenure 3 student funerals that I was directly connected to. One was close to my age, and then the other 2 were my students. I picked up on the bus, both of them, and there's a lot of people that take for granted that role of pastor, of leader, of the responsibility of teaching the word, but not just teaching the word, like living the word out for those people. And it's something that over time I realized what that calling of being a pastor was really all about. And it is not for the faint of heart. It is not something that you take lightly. It is not something to be taken lightly. It is a very deep responsibility. It is a heavy responsibility at times. There are some times that I've wanted to walk away from it and throw my hat in the ring and be like, I'm done. It's not worth it. But the most beautiful thing in it is that it's not about you. It's not your pulpit. It's not your church. It's not your youth group. It's God's church. It's God's youth group. It's God's word. That's how, when you take yourself out of it, anybody can preach a good word. Shoot, today, ChatGPT can preach a word that is as good as any pastor you will hear. The difference is the Holy Spirit. And the difference also is you removing yourself from it and allowing God to speak. When you make room for Him, that's when the difference comes. That goes from just a job or responsibility to then real life change taking place, like eternal, and you see the fruits of that. And when you see those things, that is the encouragement. That's the difference. And that's what, kind of makes you feel like, man, this is worth it. Like, it's worth every tear that I cry. It's worth every sleepless night. It's worth me getting frustrated to see that one soul be changed, not because of what I did, but to have a front row seat to see what God did. Like, man, that's the difference. That's what's worth it.
Yeah. And I'm sure this isn't even like the tip of the iceberg as far as what pastors have to deal with or whatever. But I always thought, if, as a congregation member, it's like, I guess, a cow or a puppy or a dog nursing its young. Like, you're always going to church expecting to be fed, expecting the word to be there for you and somebody feeding you. But I've always thought, if I was a pastor, then who's feeding me, and where am I getting my source from, or my sustenance from? Because if it was all on me, at least for me a couple of years ago, like, I wouldn't be able to sustain myself given how my habits were, how I was walking with the Lord. So I'm sure that's got to be a big weight to bear too, as far as, where are you getting your spiritual leadership from?
Yes, that's huge. And I would dare say that what I walked through as a teenager through my ministry responsibilities was a minor level of what I possibly could have walked through, or even still can walk through, and what many pastors maybe struggle with today on a much greater scale. And what I mean is, there are pastors. I read a statistic somewhere where it was like 20-something% of pastors have considered suicide within the last 2 years, something like that. I was like, what?
20%?
It was in the 20s. And I was like, what? That didn't even, and now that's not like one denomination. That was just like a broad little net of a survey that was sent out there. It was something like that. And that statistic could be slightly out, but it was some staggering number. It was something like that. I'm like, how is that? That can't be. That can't be right. And what I've learned is similar to what I did as a teenager, but on a much bigger scale. Pastors, because people, we're human too. We struggle with things too. We're not perfect. There is no pastor that is. And it's our job and our responsibility to make sure that we are centered in that word, that we are grounded, in that word, but there are so many pastors that walk that lonely road of feeling like they always have to have the answer and they always have to be the help, and they often fail to get help themselves and to find that safe place, to find that iron that sharpens iron. Man, think about a role of a pastor. We're not trained, and I've been through school of ministry, do all that. We're not psychologists. You know, we're not lawyers. We're not deep family counselors and advice. We're like, you know what I mean? And people come to us with the most deep of things. And
it's almost like people see you as a Jesus complex, and so you have to have the responsibility and bear the burden of shepherding a flock, but at the same time you're not Jesus. It's
that's the key.
Yeah,
we're not Jesus, and that's what you have to keep in mind through it all. But man, I mean, there are so many pastors that feel like they are giving. They have to give. And it's like a cup. If you fill a cup up and that cup is constantly pouring out, there's going to be a time where that cup gets dry. And if that cup is not filled up again, it has nothing else to pour out. And you can try, and that's what a lot of pastors do, man, that we keep trying and keep working to pour. But if we're not being filled, if we're not taking our time to self-care, if we're not having that discipleship time, we're not being filled daily, this calling, this role is perhaps heavier than what some can bear if you do it under your own strength. And so that's why I say it's not for the weak. It's not for somebody that's in it to make a name for themselves. You have to be so grounded to walk this road out that you have to remove yourself in any desire, and you have to become a true follower of Christ in the most extreme of ways in every aspect, in order for this role the enemy to not consume you through this. When I was going through marriage counseling, our marriage counselor was the bishop of South Carolina Conference, and he said something I'll never forget. Church will kill your marriage if you let it. I was like, what? He's like, and he counseled us, because I was youth pastor at the time. He counseled us as pastors. Like, if you let it, ministry will kill your marriage. Ministry will destroy your family. I'd never heard that before, because my whole life, ministry was what built our family, you know? And I learned that saying no, that having time with your family, that prioritizing God, not prioritizing ministry and responsibility, prioritizing God, your family, then church. If you do it that way, it's a healthy setup. But if you allow it to overrun, if you allow those responsibilities to push out your discipleship with God personally, if you just allow those responsibilities to take away time from your family, too much unhealthy time away from your family, it will destroy your family and your marriage. So it's a journey that we're still learning, we're still walking, but man, I'm so thankful that God, throughout my life, teenage years, as a child, he built the foundation. As a teenager, he refined it. He got the clutter out. He got my attention right. And from there, it's like all these little tools, all these little testimonies, all these little things that he has built up in me has established me where I am. And like I say, I'm still human, but I feel like he's equipped me all along. And my whole life has been like crescendoing, like in building to leading where I am today. And I'm just so thankful that God, in my rebellion, he saw me, he loved me, he saw where I need to be, and he pursued me in that. And I'm just so thankful.
Amen.
So thankful for that.
Did you have something earlier you were going to ask?
No, I was pretty much
okay.
Y'all was all over it.
All right.
Do our
I think we got another segment coming up, the rapid fire questions.
Yeah, rapid fire. Well, thanks for the questions, guys. And I'll tell you, it's and while I'm preaching in messages and stuff, I don't have an opportunity to come and talk. I guess reflect, think about where I've been. Thank you for this. This has been really good. And but let's change a little bit of gears into the rapid fire questions. Question for the boys here: what miracle would you most like to have witnessed in the Bible? Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, we just talked about this the other day.
Okay.
So for me, it's got to be the feeding of the 5,000, and I guess the 4,000, depending on which time you're talking about. But this isn't really a rapid fire. This is a long answer for me. But basically, when it comes to the other miracles, like healing the blind, healing the deaf, seeing a crippled man raise up, it's easy to see for me with your eyes like that happening. Right. I mean, obviously it's hard to believe, but if you see Jesus literally do it and they stand up, it's like, oh man, that's crazy. But to see Jesus take finite objects like 5 loaves, 2 fish, and to be able to just multiply that on a grand scale to feed that many people, to me is wild, because even movies and shows, they can't get that right. It's always like a sleight of hand thing. They're like, okay, here it is. And then they have somebody walk in front of the screen, and then all of a sudden there's more fish there. But it's like, I think it was more involved than that. I think it was just truly supernatural. So
that's cool. What about you, John? Miracle that you would like to witness?
I'm torn. I would definitely like to see the Red Sea, because that's not you can't sleight of hand that guy. And then also, would you consider the ark where he shut the door and just the survival of that and how that went down? Would that be a miracle? Or
that's a miracle.
Yeah, I would say that.
Oh, I would like to see the creation of Earth. 6 days.
Nice.
There you go.
There we go. Because that's that would be pretty impressive.
Yeah, those are all super good. I would say mine would probably fall in the Red Sea. I just like to. I mean,
a lot of questions.
A lot of things.
Is it like the cartoon? Could you see the well?
Yeah.
In the other side of the wall there.
Very neat to think about. All right. Would you rather be thrown into the lion's den or the fiery furnace?
Yikes.
Whoa. All right.
Some people have labeled me a lion tamer.
Oh.
So maybe I'm JK. No, I don't think it matters.
They're both
excruciating.
Horrible.
Yeah.
You probably would stand a chance with the lions.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I would hope that the furnace would be quicker.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. But with God, it didn't matter.
Who asked that question? What does that matter?
Your wife.
That's a terrible question.
Was that a comment section question? Oh, okay.
I would choose old age.
Oh, here we go. Would you rather witness crucifixion or resurrection?
Resurrection, 100%.
Duh, definitely. That's tough. That'd be tough to watch. The other,
but would the resurrection be as much if you didn't witness the crucifixion?
That's true. I bet you would take it more serious if you witnessed the crucifixion.
It would mean a whole lot more. Like those disciples in that room, they would probably have a different perspective than someone who didn't witness it.
Okay. Here's another one for it. Okay, cool. Would you rather spend 40 days of rain on the ark or 40 days in the wilderness?
On the ark, I think.
What wilderness?
I'm assuming probably like Jesus.
In the desert?
Yeah. What? Okay, she said never mind. Yeah, whatever you want it to be.
Any wilderness I'd like.
40 days on the ark, 40 days in the wilderness. Would have to be with Jesus because the other would be 40 years, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like,
the ark's my answer.
Yeah.
I need some more details, but I'm going to go with the 40 days in the wilderness. I will say, like, is Santee considered?
Oh, so you're going off the Bible path.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's wild.
If it's like that, then I'll
in the South Carolina jungle.
Yeah. I mean, 40 days or the 40 days and then the extended period before the water dried up.
Now, that's the thing. If you spend 40 days on the ark, 40 days, that's a long time.
That turns into a year real quick.
That is,
and
that's
that
a
boat
rough
gets
40 days.
Really small after about,
You're rocking.
Well,
I would still like to see, I think, that. Anyway, for the sake of the question. Would you rather walk on water like Peter or have strength like Samson?
Ooh. Strength like Samson.
I think I'm in that boat too.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
This is a man's podcast. We all going to say strength.
Although, it'd probably be really impressive to see somebody walk on water and be like, man.
It would be.
Look at that.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of strength, final question. Can 100 men win in a fight against 100? Let's do, this says 100 gorillas. I'm going to say
gorillas.
the one. Isn't the one? In the original question is the one. 100 men, 1 gorilla. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say the men can take it.
I think so too.
And this is, there's strength in numbers. And I go back to Outpost 44. All right. We might not be the toughest, the fastest, the strongest, but when you get fire ants on you and they swarm, they can do a lot of damage before you can get them all off. I'm going to say, yeah, the gorilla might be scary. He might be super, super strong, but put 100 Outpost 44
I've heard this argument that in order for the 100 men to actually work, you have to have some sacrificial lambs.
You do.
Yeah, like
and you got to commit. I heard, yes.
Y'all go on up there.
There was somebody said, did it analytically, was like, all right, you got 100 men. It was like 30 of them are going to get scared and want to go home right off the bat. So now you're down to 70. And then now you have 70, and then 20 of those men are going to hesitate and not attack. So now you down to what? 50. So then out of 50, you're going to have 20 of them go in for attack and get knocked out right away, get knocked off, thrown off, whatever. So now you're down to 30. And he kept like whittling it down like that. And I was like, well, if you do the math, but if you have 100 crazy men and you're like, get him all together, we're just going to dogpile him. I mean, I think you could pull it off.
I don't know. You don't have enough room for 100 men to touch a gorilla at one time.
That's true.
So I'm going to go with no, gorilla.
So how many men would it take?
I don't think, in
a bullet?
You just have, yeah. What kind of weapons are they using? No, I don't know. That's a good question. We'll have to revisit that one.
Well, there you go. That's our rapid fire questions and our perspective for the episode. So thank you for segment number 2 there.
Mm-hmm. Well, man, I've really enjoyed this time we've had. And I want to say, too, that you don't get to hear a lot of pastors, I guess, get candid about their journey because, kind of going back to earlier, you know that it's almost like an image you have to upkeep.
You're not supposed to show you the chinks in your armor.
Right, exactly.
Right, you're supposed to be strong. Yeah. You're not supposed to be weak.
One question I would like to know, how is it to deal with not employees, but volunteers, whatever you call it, like people that help in position like Miss Rhonda?
Shout out Miss Rhonda. Oh, it's awesome. If I had 40 Miss Rhondas who was as passionate about their individual ministries as Miss Rhonda is about world missions,
we would be
we could change this world, boy. Nah, it's awesome. And it does. I would rather have to pull back on reins than to say giddy up to a leader. And that the church frustration is sometimes not necessarily our church, but as a church, it's hard to find good leaders, good volunteers. So when you have a good one, you
cherish it.
Man,
Miss Rhonda, you are cherished.
She is very cherished, and she does listen. By the way, hey, she sent me a song over text.
Over text.
She's like, it's not a Christian song, but it's a song. It's my favorite non-Christian song, and it's called "She Just Wants to Dance" or something like that. And she said, I want you to listen to it because I heard in your podcast you just wanted to dance. And you need to listen to this song and it will help you start to move. And I was like, thank you, Miss Rhonda.
Nice.
So,
well, Miss Rhonda is, I always give her, I blame whatever. She always schedules our meetings on Tuesdays, the first Tuesday of the month. No, is that the board meeting?
First, it'd be first for y'all.
Okay, first. So then she always sends out our group. The first Tuesday of the month at this time, and I have checked with Pastor Zack. He told me I can't do anything until I check with him that you asked.
No.
She gets mad. He did not say that.
What did we talk about lying earlier?
I don't necessarily lie. I don't tell the whole truth, and I do it in a way that she can perceive it in a certain way. But that's one of the things I probably shouldn't do. But it's a good trip. It's a good laugh. Miss Rhonda's a good time.
She's awesome. A lot of good people in volunteer, not just at our church, but there's a lot of good people. They don't get a paycheck and they don't have to because it's not about that. That's what makes ministry move forward.
Nice.
Yep. Well, that was a good hour there. Mm-hmm. And thank you, Pastor Zack, for that. Enlightening us all and telling us that we too can overcome.
Yeah.
That's right. Until next time, guys, thank you. Stay strong. Stay strong. Stay strong. Stay sharp. We'll see you. Thank you.